Hey everyone, welcome to a little bit of woo woo. I'm your host, Jill Thomas. Today I'm going to talk about the economy, and at the end, stick around to the end because I am going to talk about my predictions for the House and Senate race. I want to start off by saying that this is for entertainment purposes only. I am not a financial planner. If you need one of those, you should call one of those. Also, some of the things I'm going to say today, some of you guys might not agree with. That's okay. We can disagree and still be friends. I would just say I'm going to share what I'm seeing, and it may not be what everybody wants to hear, but I'm just sharing what I'm seeing. So we're going to start off with, I want to say this week. Oh, also, I'm recording this on August 18th at 9 a.m. Pacific. So this is the day before the Democratic National Convention starts on Monday. Something I wanted to talk about, because I think this is going to be important this week, particularly for the stock market. There's a lot of stuff coming out this week that normally doesn't get paid too much attention to, but it could really affect the markets this week. So I'm warning you guys about this. Some of you already know about this. The big benchmark revisions that happen once a year are happening on August 21st, and that's Wednesday. And I think Powell's speech, they're doing an economic symposium in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, the same week as the Democratic convention. I thought that was interesting. But he's going to be speaking this week. And when people watch his speeches, when they're trying to determine what the state of the economy based on his speeches, they'll look and see, did he say happy or did he say glad? I mean, that's why it's going to be so up and down. Just understand, babysit those investments. Maybe a little intestinal fortitude might be needed this week, and don't freak out. I mean, this happens every time he opens his mouth. People tend to move. It moves the markets, because the markets right now are being moved based on sentiment, not on what's actually happened, and not real data. You guys already know this. It's what people think is happening. It's not what's actually happening. So we did have a flash crash, I think about a week and a half ago, and it had to do with the yen carry trade. That is still going to be an issue. I'm seeing that we could have another one like that. It may not be the yen carry trade, but it could even be around all of these economic data that's coming out this week in particular. But I'm not real clear on when. I know when it comes to stock market stuff, it's not as helpful if I can't give you a date and a time. I would just say babysit your investments. I always give that advice. And just know that this is pretty normal, and that it doesn't necessarily mean the end is coming. I do say there could be another all-time high, but ultimately long-term, I'm going to give predictions here today that are more in the next 18 months. So all of the last of 2024 and most of 2025. I am seeing that the stock market is going to get to a level, and it's going to stay at a lower level than it is now for a long period of time, maybe even a couple of years. I am seeing that we are in for a nasty recession. I think eventually, when there's going to be a recession call, it's going to go back to 2023, maybe even the last, like November of 2023. That I think will ultimately be how history plays out. Right now, those of you who are living life are seeing, lower number of people coming to your businesses, lower numbers of hours work. People are just nervous. It is sentiment. Yes, that's a big part of it. So when the government is saying that everything's fine and you're feeling like it's not, it's not, listen to yourself a little bit here. Some of the government data is basically been manipulated quite a bit. A lot of people just look at the headline and never really dig into the data, which is just fine because that data is complicated. I would just understand that maybe you shouldn't just trust the headline. Give it a little bit of time. And try to learn how these things work. As a little side note, this is my little my soapbox here. We didn't learn about macroeconomics in high school, and very little of it in college. In fact, that was an elective. I would say that it feels very intentional that kids aren't taught how this thing plays out, because we're hearing terms on the radio and the news that we don't understand, and it feels like most people just don't know because we didn't learn it in school. That to me feels very intentional. I'm not necessarily a big conspiracy theorist. I am a little bit. Okay, I'll be honest. But that I think is part of keeping some people in a position of poverty, is by not explaining how this system works. That's just my take on it. So you can fight this by learning how this system works. I do feel like in the next 18 months, we're going to lose another big bank. Could be a couple of them. What I'm seeing, what I'm feeling is going to happen is it may even be in the next 3 months, we're going to lose a household name bank. It's not one of the big three, but it does feel like it's going to scare people. Now, they may, because of the election coming, they may kind of sweep it under the rug and say, hey, you know what, guys, all of you guys who are customers of this particular bank, Chase is now your bank. Don't worry about it. Everything's fine. And it might happen like that because they don't want people to panic just a few months before the election. That's not good for either party. Both parties want you to think everything's fine and that the powers that be are responsible for it. So understand part of that game is played. You can't underestimate their ability to make things look good during an election year. And that's true for both parties. That's true for both sides. I'm just saying. I do feel like there's going to be an unknown, kind of unexpected event, a surprise event, like a Lehman Brothers type thing. I'm not saying it's that happening, that will kind of be what we call this great financial crisis. It's almost in some ways like a hurricane. It gets named by somebody. It's going to get named by the thing that happens that's unexpected, that was only on a few people's radars. And those people are going to be standing up and saying, hey guys, I told you all about this for the last year. You weren't listening. It's going to be something like that, but I do see that coming. And we are going to be seeing, gosh, I hate to say this, but I feel like it's going to be like a wave of defaults coming. That student loan crisis is going to be a bigger issue than I think the news is really talking about right now. Those loans are starting to get due, and a lot of people aren't going to pay, and they're going to be defaulting. Their credit's going to get ruined. And these are people that are not going to be able to buy houses and cars on credit easily. Let's say that. They won't be able to do it easily. I do see them trying to, the government, Biden administration, trying to kick that down the road a little bit, possibly just after the election. But I don't know how successful they're going to be getting a stimmy through. So people have asked about stimmies. There's a lot of things that stimulate the government, the economy. The checks to households, though, seem to be particularly difficult because they do tend to cause inflation. I'm not seeing inflation happening again. I know everybody's saying there's going to be more inflation. Things are going to go to the moon. I'm not seeing that. I'm just not. I'm being shown the opposite, like a disinflationary period. Now, having said that, if eggs are $4 a crate now, I don't need eggs, so forgive me for this. I forgot the price way off. If they're $4 now, next year, if we have 2% inflation, they're going to be $4.08. Okay, so the year after that, another 2%. I do see kind of a disinflationary thing happening in the next 18 months, where instead of things going up, you're going to start to see it come down a little bit. I'm not seeing it coming back necessarily to 2019 prices. So people are still going to be crunched for food because it's still going to be higher than it was before, because they remember what it used to be, because it was that way for a long time. It was lower price. But I do think things are going to get a little bit easier. Things are going to get easier in the food around the same time that the job market is going to start to crash a little bit more than it already has. You guys have heard lots of layoff announcements. Some of you may have been laid off. I think the unemployment rate is hovering around 4.5, maybe closer to 5. I do think that's going to double. And I do think it's going to kind of be a snowball. It feels like it happens all at once, but these layoff announcements happen on the news. You're going to hear about them, and then it takes a few months for it to play out. Also, people that got severance pay, they don't necessarily show up on the unemployment data. So as that severance pay kind of peters out, those people will start showing up as unemployed and show up on the unemployment rolls. Interestingly enough, people are asking about stimulus. I really want to go back to this because I do see them trying really hard to do more of these kinds of things. There's one I think they will get through. It's an Obama era stimulation where they made unemployment benefits go a lot longer than they used to. I think used to be 6 months, and they made it go up to almost 2 years, I think. I feel like that will happen. I feel like that's going to go through later, but I don't feel like the checks to households is going to happen again. I think there's a very slim chance of that happening again because cooler heads will prevail on this one. And I think the stimmies will come to the corporations. I hate to say this, but I do see, the American car companies going back to hat in hand to the government, asking for money again. We saw this before. It is going to be a lot of, the GFC 2.0. Watch The Big Short again, guys. If you've seen it, it's not exactly going to be the same things, but it'll play out in a lot of the same ways. And I feel like there's going to be a lot of the same characters, a lot of the same situations happening, just like before. So why does this matter to you? Well, obviously that affects everyone, but you're going to need to make some changes. You may want to, you're already making changes. You guys aren't going out to eat as much. The data is already showing that. You're putting some money in the bank. Data is showing that, maybe not as much, but you're not buying a new car every year. Good for you. I would also look at investing in yourself. If there's a certificate you can get, go ahead and get it. If there's some new skill you can learn, go ahead and get it. Start working on creating a multiple stream of income because some of the income streams are going to be going away. I am seeing within the stock market, I think we're sitting in an AI AI bubble. Yeah, geez, I see some of those AI stocks not doing well later. So I'm not saying sell. I can't tell you when that would happen, but I would say just if you have a real position in the AI stocks, babysit it. Babysit that position. Let's see if I got everything on my list. Okay, yes, the Powell pivot. So Powell's going to be speaking. I can't think if it's Wednesday or Thursday of this week. I do see them lowering interest rates. I do see it could be 50 basis points in September, but I do ultimately see it being 200 basis points. I think that'll happen more. I can't tell if it's going to be September or next year because it all looks the same. I just see a final number, but I do see that happening. Partly because the housing market is really cratering. Now, in some areas of the country, and please put in the comments if you're in one of these areas, some areas of the country, the market is still fine. That's not true for most of the country, though. Most of the country sales have been slow, and a lot of real estate agents are looking for side jobs too. So that's going to be part of the challenge that's happening. Get advice before you buy a house. I'm not saying don't buy it, but I am saying that I am seeing some deals, not so much next year, but maybe like into 2026. If you have put coins aside, you may be able to get a really good price on a house better than you expected before. And I would be very cautious about buying one right now, especially considering that most people are predicting interest rates are going to be, going down in the next few months. Some of that has already been put into the pricing. It's sort of put in, but yeah, I'd be really nervous if it were me. I'm just saying. Last thing I want to talk about is the House and the Senate races. Now, I am seeing, make my notes here. I am seeing that the Democrats are going to keep the Senate. I do feel like that's going to happen. I am not as clear on whether they get the House. I'm going to say that there is a non-zero chance the Democrats get both the Senate and the House. And I think that's because of what's happening with the ticket right now. A lot of people are voting in this election who wouldn't have voted for either of those two guys, who just weren't voters. But now they're getting excited about the Harris-Walz ticket. As a result of that, I'm also seeing something else. Don't be mad. I'm seeing some interesting things showing up on some of these state ballot propositions. Things that normally would never have a ghost of a chance of passing, like it's okay to smoke something in the town square. I'm seeing some of that stuff passing because of who's on the ticket and who's going to come out and vote this time. That'll be interesting to see. But I'm not real clear if they get the House. I think there is a non-zero chance that's going to happen. If it does, it's going to be really, really tight. And I have predicted that I do feel like Kamala Harris is going to win. I think there's going to be a protracted legal battle. I think it could be a while before we find out for sure, possibly even as late as February. And that might be part of this House and Senate thing, because I think maybe the same states that vote for her where it was unexpected might also be voting for the Democrats in the House and Senate races. And it might also be unexpected in that situation. I'm not as clear on that. So I'm not sure if it's just that it's really too close to call, or if that hasn't been determined yet. That's what I would say. So I hope this was entertaining. I hope you enjoyed it. I am available for private readings. I am also moving, so you may not see me next week, but I hope you guys have a good week, and just enjoy it. Pop some popcorn and kind of enjoy watching this little gameplay. Make some changes, make some positive changes for yourself. Don't be worried about this. I mean, worry just never fixed anything. Maybe start to look at how you can get yourself further away from the edge. And I'll see you again next time. Bye, guys. Bye.